Troglodyte warning. Since I cover a lot of far-right stuff on my channel, I often see the comment by either far-right bots or morons that fascism is a left-wing ideology or socialism is fascism. So I want to explore that concept today because I hear very little argumentation or evidence to back up these bold assertions. So I want to watch a video from PragerU, Dennis Prager, that poses the question, was Hitler far left or far right? So let's get straight into the video.
Dennis, I'd like your perspective on whether you think Hitler was far right or was actually a far left ideologue. Okay, thank you for your time. I enjoy listening to Fireside Chat every week. All the best. Thank you. Hitler was left-wing in that he believed in socialism. Remember, Nazism is National Socialism. Very few people know that, especially if you go to college where you don't learn much.
Okay, so the anti-intellectual argument, where you don't learn much. Yes, well, if you actually went to college, Dennis, which I'm sure you probably did, you would go beyond the surface level of, oh, someone says they're a National Socialist. Okay, well, let's look at their actions. So what did he do? Well, at that time, socialism, communism was very popular. It was going across the globe. Trade unions were starting, socialism and communism were rising, and the workers were uniting against capitalism, especially after the Depression from 1929. People rose up and wanted something different. They didn't want the same old capitalism, the same old boom and bust, the same old inequality. Again, this is before the Gilded Age, where we're in a similar time now where inequality was rife in the early 20th century and people rose up against it. So Hitler knew what he was doing. He was intelligent enough to know he couldn't just have the We Hate Jews party. He thought, well, we'll tap into this. We'll call ourselves the National Socialists. And what did he do when he got into power? Well, the first thing he did was kill all the socialists, the communists, the trade unions, the Marxist intellectuals. So his actions are clearly not socialist. And then he privatized industry. If he was a socialist, he would have nationalized industry and he would have had the socialist communists in power and would have implemented socialist policies. But he didn't do that. He slaughtered millions of people, which isn't a socialist value. That's a far right value. That's fascism. You eradicate the enemy. There's a constant war, and the solution is eradicate the enemy. So his analysis or lack of analysis is laughable. The idea that just, oh, they're socialist because they call themselves. Is China communist? No, it's capitalist. Is North Korea democratic? No, clearly not. They call themselves democratic. It doesn't mean they are. So why are you taking people's word for granted, Dennis? I'm sure you wouldn't do that. You don't. Does he typically do that with leftists? I'm sure he doesn't.
But that is what Nazism stands for, National Socialism. In that sense, it was left-wing.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. There's your explanation. Deep analysis here.
But it was not left-wing in another sense. The left divided the world by class. That's the classic Marxist division of the world, class, the proletariat and the oppressor, if you will.
Correct.
Whereas Hitler divided the world by race.
True.
Race is not a left-wing or a right-wing value.
Well, it kind of is. Historically, realism, racial scientists, and eugenicists, which kind of came from Europe and a bit from America, have been co-opted by the right in the UK and America. So it has been historically a right-wing ideology. Hence Hitler. He's admitting his focus is on race, and he was influenced by the American eugenicists of the early 20th century, who would have been influenced by the race scientists of the 18th and 19th century. These kind of manufactured hierarchies of race that came from Europe that put Europeans at the top, coincidentally, and then Africans, Australians, Asian people at the bottom, and justified their prominence post hoc in the world. And this is racism. This is scientific racism. And this has been embraced by the right ever since the Ku Klux Klan, people who implemented Jim Crow, apartheid in South Africa, people who believe that they are superior, that Europeans are superior to the rest of the world. And we're seeing this now with resurgence in the far right, where people just think Europeans are just better. Their values are better inherently. This is racism.
It has become a left-wing value in the last 25 years in the West. All of a sudden...
No, we challenge racism. We talk about race, but we did not invent it. It's not a leftist ideology. Marx wasn't concerned with race. He was racist, he was anti-Semitic, but he wasn't predominantly concerned with race dynamics. And race at this time was very different to what it is now. And it changes constantly because it is a social construct. It has no biological meaning, really. So the idea that, yeah, it's a leftist idea. No, we're fighting against racism. That doesn't mean it's a leftist idea. That means we're resisting it. Movements, the civil rights movement, the Black Lives Matter movement, movements that fight racism aren't proponents of race science or racism. It's a pure fallacy.
Race matters incredibly. The left has actually, in some ways, abandoned classic Marxist.
No, he's conflating liberalism, centrists, neoliberals, with leftists. Leftists will talk about class. They talk about critical theory, sociology, critical race theory, which embraces Marxism and class dynamics. Liberals will talk about diversity hires. They'll talk about ways of improving capitalism through little tweaks here and there, but they're not leftists. But in his mind, they are. In his mind, Joe Biden's a leftist. No, he, was okay on unions, but he's not class conscious in the way that leftists are.
Division by class and now made it by race.
Completely false. We're fighting racism that comes from the right. It's inherent to conservatism. They believe in hierarchies. We're fighting that racial hierarchy. Just because we talk about race and the importance of race and experiences of race, that does not mean per se that we believe that race is this inherent thing that is valuable against, above class or above the worker experience or exploitation. No, we should be combining and seeing how they link. The relationship between race, sexuality, and class is an intersectional analysis. These are linked.
Race was neither left nor right until this moment. It is not a right-wing value. I mean, I live among people on the right. None of them, not one person I know is a racist.
I find that very hard to believe, since he is a racist himself. That's not an argument, is it? I have friends on the right. None of them are racist. Okay, great. We have to just take your word for that. I mean, you don't produce any racist content that justifies treatment of black people differently in America, the historical legacy of slavery. He's not racist at all. Great argument.
Find the idea preposterous. So
that's not an argument. Okay, no, not racist at all. Okay, well, what about your values? Do you support, funding for urban black towns, cities? Well, no. Okay, well, it's insane that he is able to say this without laughing. He doesn't care about black communities, people of color. He doesn't want to raise their standards of living. He doesn't want to address historical injustices. He is racist. And he would probably believe, again, he doesn't recognize racism. He probably doesn't believe racism exists.
It's not right to say that he was right-wing, and it's not right to say he was only left-wing. He was partially left-wing. And by the way, he hated capitalism, hated it. I just read a new biography of Hitler, and that was a major part of the biography, how much the man hated capitalism. That's also not taught in college.
But why did he hate capitalism? Would be interesting to know. Was it because he perceived it to be controlled by Jews and the Jewish influence, or did he inherently hate the exploitation of capitalism? Well, I can tell which one it is. It wouldn't have been the exploitation because he continued capitalism. If he hated capitalism so much, he would have abandoned privatization and he would have embraced socialism and give the means of production to the workers. He didn't do that, did he? So tell me in the comments below, is Hitler far right or far left? Are Dennis Prager's points convincing to you? And I'll see you in the next video.